Hey guys, it's your boy Double A, aka Aaron. I'm in a suit because I'm waiting to film something else and I'm still waiting to get word back on what that is. So while I'm waiting, I figured that I would do a video talking about the series finale of How I Met Your Mother. Now, honestly, I became a fan of the show like 3 years ago. The first 5 years, it was not on my radar. And then one of my friends introduced me to the show. The first show that I saw was the one where Barney had the playbook. And I saw that and thought it was interesting. So during that summer, I ended up catching seasons 1 through 5 on the computer. So that way when season 6 started, I would be ready to watch the show. And since then, me and a few of my other close friends have watched the show religiously every week, and we love it to death. So obviously the big point of the finale was to not reveal the mother, because they did that at the end of season 8, but to actually show the meeting between the mother and Ted and how that all goes down at the Farhampton train station. So obviously I saw the finale. I have my own thoughts on it. There's a lot of people out there that have mixed feelings about the stuff that happened in the finale. So if you're watching this video and have not seen the finale, I recommend you turn this off, go watch the finale, come back, and watch this video. Go ahead, I'll wait. You watched it yet? All right, good. So here's what I thought, okay? I absolutely loved the finale of the show. I thought that it pulled together some of the best elements that the show's had in the 9 years that it's been on. And I like the fact that it was able to recall a lot of the bits that we loved about the show without having to do it in flashback form. Like I always hate when series finales try to go to the whole, oh, remember this time? And then they flashback to a video. Like I have those episodes on DVD and I can watch them on the computer. Why would you do that? So them being able to integrate it into the show where it still seemed like the natural thing was fantastic. I like the moments that I wanted to see. I got to see everything from Barney doing one more "Have you met Ted?" to the cockamouse came back. That was awesome. Wrestlers versus robots, that came back, and I was like, yes, they're hitting on these things that I wanted to see. I also like the fact that they didn't necessarily try to make it this big overall happy ending. And again, some people were thinking, after 9 years, they owe us the ending that we wanted, or we should see all the characters happy and the gang should all be together. And just, I like the fact that because it doesn't happen in real life all the time, that in the show, that's not happening either. Like, realistically, there's moments in time where Robin's not able to be with the group the whole time. Or there's moments where, Marshall and Lily, because they're a successfully married couple who have 2 or 3 kids, that they're not always in the loop. And so as in the finale, they went through the various years from 2014 on to 2030, where they show various important moments in their life where they are together. But you also know that when those moments aren't happening, they're not necessarily seeing each other every day, even though they still care for each other. So, and that happens in real life, So the people that are mad at that part, I got to say, sometimes that just happens. So this is one of those shows that always tried to stay true to how relationships grow and how, and sometimes in your life, you're all together, and then sometimes in life, it ends up being sporadic where you don't see each other all the time, or people have, their real lives going on and they're traveling and they don't always have time to do that. Now, from the reviews that I read from fans of the show, the major part that a lot of people had a problem with was the fact that ultimately Barney and Robin ended up getting divorced. And they're mad because we spent all of season 9 at the Farhampton Inn watching them get ready for this wedding. And, we spent the previous seasons before that where they finally decided to hook up and they decided to try to be a couple for like the umpteenth time and make it work. And it seemed like, Barney had made certain strides as a person and Robin had made certain strides as a person. So they just felt as though they were going to get together, be married, and that was going to be like it. Like they were going to be married and be happy, and you're going to see in 2030 that they're all still friends on the porch that they were always talking about being on together with Marshall and Lily and Ted and whoever he was married to. And so when it goes from we spend all these seasons of them getting together, and then in the first like 15 minutes they're divorced for the series finale, people got kind of mad about that because they're like, oh my God, why do we invest all this time and then this thing breaks up? Like that's not realistic. Like how could they do this to us? Honestly, I kind of expected them to break up, and I'll tell you why. Because even though they were trying their darndest to make it work, you could even see in season 9 during the course of getting ready for the wedding, there were like all these conflicts that were constantly coming up that were still showing that they had these major differences that they were trying to like bypass and not settle and be like, oh, we'll just, we'll deal with this later. Or, he'll be honest with me and she'll be, some kind of way, so it'll be better. But it's like that in and of itself, they were bypassing all these things that were important and different about them. So they were ultimately destined to break up. And that happens in real life again too. Like, how many times have you seen a couple, you see them, get together, you see their relationship blossom and bloom, and you're thinking everything's all lovely. From the outside, you're looking like they're like a great couple, and then they get married and the wedding ceremony is fantastic. And then like not even a year later, they're talking about they want to get divorced, they're breaking up, they're separating. Like, unfortunately, that stuff happens. So, as a viewer, we're invested in these characters, so we want to see them succeed. So when they don't, yeah, we kind of get pissed off because we're thinking like, it's almost like they're our real friends. How could they break up? But again, in reality, that actually happens. So I was actually glad that the creators of the show took it to where, 3 years later, they just realized they were constantly fighting. Her travel schedule is different. He's trying to do this blog thing, and ultimately it's not going to work. Like, that is a realistic scenario. And especially for those two characters, I could see how that was eventually going to come to terms and happen anyway. Now, one thing that I did find very, very interesting about the finale was Ted. Because for the whole series, Ted has been this guy that's been a champion for love. And his main mantra has been, I want to get with this girl and I want to be able to, marry her and have a family life. And a lot of times during the series, he would meet girls and then he would like rush into trying to say, I love you to him. Or he'd rush into trying to go out with him or rush into trying to, lock them down and get engaged to him. And it never worked out. But you always champion for him to ultimately get what he wants. So it was just interesting to see in the finale that of all the characters on the show, he was the one that not only like waited to actually get married, because he waited a long time. Like, he was with the girl for like 6 or 7 years after they had 2 kids before they settled down. But when it came time to actually do the whole marriage thing, again, of all his friends, keep in mind, he's the one that's champion for love here. He was the one that ended up having like the simplest ceremony. You look at Barney and Robin ceremony, a lot of people there. It's at an inn, and it's this big thing. You look at Lily and Marshall's wedding, they brought all their relatives and put out the woodwork and had it in a big church. And Ted basically just went down to like City Hall or some mini chapel with his close group knit of friends, not even his family and stuff was there, and got married. I found that to be very interesting that was a choice that the creators made for the show, but it also kind of shows the growth on Ted's part in terms of, realizing after all those years that maybe rushing into it wasn't the best case scenario, or trying to have this thing where you have this big ceremony and show off people. Maybe that's not really showing off the true love that you have for somebody. Now, I'm old fashioned, so I did kind of take part with, oh, they've got 2 kids. Why aren't they married? He clearly got engaged to her all these years ago. Why not just go ahead and do it? So I did feel some kind of way about that. But again, it was for purposes of character growth and development. It was an interesting choice on Ted's part. Finally, the ending, the end-all, be-all ending to how they actually met. And then, of course, the curveball that everybody seemingly has known about forever, that the mother's dead. And he's been telling this story about this woman that he met, but she's been dead for 6 years. Even though fans kind of expected it, some of them took issue with that as well. Like, oh my God, how are you guys going to create this woman that's perfect for Ted, and then he only gets to know her for all of 10 years, and then she dies, and he's left alone, and then he gets with Robin again. Me personally, I come from a family, my mom and my dad, they met, and they were married, obviously. They had us, and me and my brother, and they were married for a good 13 years, and then when I was 9, he died. So when it happened, I knew that people were going to be mad at it, but as somebody that's personally experienced that situation where, a spouse dies and it seems like too soon, realistically, that was the thing where I could see it happening, so it didn't bug me. Now, again, for lovers of the show, it bugged them because they're like, again, they want to see Ted happy. Ted finally gets happiness and this girl goes away. But ultimately, the show is not even really about how he met the mother. It's really this journey of friends and how they came together as a family to support one another, to be there for each other in the good times and the bad times, the transitions that those make. And in the course of that, he happened to meet this girl that produced these 2 kids. So she is an important part of the story, but she's not the only part of the story that is of importance. And that's the thing that people aren't understanding, is that ultimately, just because the title of the show is How I Met Your Mother doesn't mean that she is the sole purpose for the show existing. The sole purpose ultimately is for Ted to get out to his kids that he had this great love of his life, and it was the person that produced these two people, and in some way he's asking for their blessing to be able to move on to somebody else. Now, in this case, obviously it's Robin, and Robin may not end up even being the choice that Ted decides to go with long term. But the reality is, for purposes of the show, she's somebody that the kids already know. There was an episode where, I think it's one where she found out she couldn't have kids or whatever, but you see in a flash forward all the drawings that the kids made of times that they spent with Aunt Robin doing all these various things in different parts of the country and parts of the world. So the kids already have a great repertoire with Robin, so she would be the obvious first choice to go to, and only this time it wouldn't be for selfish reasons, because before, Ted was just like, I just want Robin, and because I love her, I want to be with her, and not that it was necessarily all about him, but ultimately, because the kids weren't there, it came down to, I like this girl, and I want to, see what's up. So now that he has kids, you have a guy that has two kids that wants to get back out there, and the person he's thinking about getting with already shows that not only does she care for him, but also his kids, which in a post-death type of hookup thing, that's kind of what a parent looks for is, I want to find somebody that not just loves me, but also whatever my family consists of. So for me, like I said, the ending to this thing, as far as I'm concerned, was perfect. The way that he showed up at her apartment, just like in the first episode where he had the blue horn, like as soon as he was like, and you saw the flash to the city, me and my friend were like, oh my God, it's going to be the blue horn. It's got to be. It's got to be. And he showed up with the blue horn. And we were like, yes, this is the perfect ending. The way you end it is how you started. Ultimately, and not to say that we get to know for sure if it works out, but as far as it ends, we are content with the fact that he was able to ultimately have two loves of his life. He got to have the mother that he ended up getting with and who ended up dying, and then Robin, who was the girl from day one, who admittedly, after being with Barney, was probably able to really respect and understand more the things that Ted was doing or trying to do for her in their previous relationship. So that actually gave Robin time to grow into being comfortable with the kind of guy that Ted was. So that's my thoughts on the finale. It was an absolute great run. I love the series immensely, and I'm sure I'll be marathoning it sometime this summer. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the finale. I'd love to hear what your take on it was, whether you liked it, whether you hated it, what parts you thought were realistic, what parts you thought were completely not believable at all. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, or, write to me. It's whatever, but I'd love to, have a dialogue about what you guys thought of the series finale of the show and of the show in general. Anyway, I'm Double A, and I will catch you guys on whatever video I decide to do next. I'm out. Peace.